The wind tasted of iron and rain, a rare conjunction in these parts. Silas knelt beside the adobe house, his shoulder throbbing a dull counterpoint to the frantic chirping of crickets. Jed Thorne, face gaunt and shadowed, spat a stream of brown juice into the dust. "Reckon they're gone then," Jed rasped, his voice raw. "All for them." Silas grunted, pushing himself up with a wince. He'd seen towns ravaged by Comanches, by rustlers, by sheer dumb bad luck, but the carnage at Silver Creek, it was something else. A brutal efficiency, a cold, calculated fury that spoke of more than just greed. "Rattlesnakes," Silas said, stating the obvious. "Rattlesnakes are good at efficiency." Jed didn't answer, his gaze fixed on the distant peaks. The mountain air felt heavy, vague with an unspoken dread. He's been running from Copper Canyon for near on a year, ever since the trouble with the stagecoach. Silas had been tracking him, a reluctant pursuer drawn by the echoes of a shared past, a past filled with desperation and bad decisions. "They left nothing," Jed said finally, his voice barely a whisper. "Not a scrap, just bodies." Silas hadn't wanted to find Jed here. He hoped to simply haul him back to Copper Canyon, settle the matter with the judge, and their few nights in a cell. But the news from Silver Creek had changed everything. Now he felt a growing certainty that whatever Jed was running from, it was tied to something far larger, something darker than a simple robbery. An Apache warrior emerged from the shadows of the house. He was old, his face etched with the hardships of a long life. Beside him stood a young woman, her face pale and gaunt, supported by her mother. For weeks, she's been fading, a slow decline that threatened to extinguish the last ember of hope for her people. The spirit spoke, the Apache leader said, his voice calm and resonant. They spoke of a man coming, a man with a healing touch. Silas felt a cold prickle crawl down his spine. Prophecies. He's always dismissed them as the ramblings of frightened people clinging to ancient superstitions. But something about the Apache leader's gaze, it was unwavering, filled with a desperate faith that made Silas profoundly uncomfortable. He knew he should leave. He should turn his back on the Apache and head back to Copper Canyon, to the relative safety of the law. But there was something in the young woman's eyes, a spark of hope, that mirrored the faint flicker of redemption he desperately sought for himself. He hesitated, then knelt beside her, ignoring the Apache leader's expectant gaze. He hadn't laid hands on a sick person in years, not since his mother succumbed to the fever that swept through the territory. He hadn't thought he possessed any healing power, but desperation, he's learned, can unlock hidden depths. He closed his eyes, drew a deep breath, and placed his hand on her forehead. He focused, not on the mechanics of healing, but on the woman's pain, on the silent plea for survival that radiated from her. He didn't know what he was doing, but something shifted within him, a subtle realignment of energy that felt both foreign and strangely familiar. When he opened his eyes, the young woman's face was flushed with color. Her breathing had deepened, and a faint smile played on her lips. The Apache leader watched, his expression unreadable. "The spirits are pleased," he said softly. "A man has answered their call." A murmur rippled through the Apache villages. They looked at Silas with a mixture of awe and gratitude. He felt a wave of disorientation, a profound sense of displacement. He's a lawman, not a miracle worker. Yet, here he was, hailed as a savior. Jed Thorne watched from the shadows, his face a mask of confusion. "What's happening?" he muttered, more to himself than to anyone else. "What's it look like?" Silas said, his voice weary. "I healed someone. Now, everyone thinks I'm some kind of shaman." The Apache leader stepped forward. "The spirits have spoken again," he announced. "The man Silas is destined to help our people. He will guide us through the darkness." Silas felt a surge of panic. He wanted to argue, to protest, to explain that he was just a man, a flawed and imperfect man trying to make amends for his past mistakes. But the words caught in his throat. He looked at the Apache leader's unwavering gaze, at the hope shining in the eyes of the young woman he had touched. "I have to go," he said finally, his voice strained. He mounted his horse, glancing back at Jed. "You coming, Thorne?" Jed didn't respond. He simply stared at the ground, his face lost in a silent torment. Silas spurred his horse and rode off, leaving Jed Thorne standing alone in the fading light. The wind tasted of iron and rain, a constant reminder of the darkness that lay ahead, and in the distance he heard the faint echo of a prophecy that bound him to a destiny he neither wanted nor understood. He looked back to see Jed watching him leave. Jed's face was a mask of anguish. As Silas rode out of the settlement, Jed turned and disappeared into the encroaching twilight. The taste of iron grew heavier in the air, and the wind carried with it the unsettling whisper of something ancient and unseen.